Imperialism in the United States of America in the Progressivism and Imperialistic Ages, chapter 3 of your book. Just to set you off today, because we know we come in dribs and drabs, I'm going to set you off watching this, and to hopefully make it 100% clear. We've got a bit of a request about imperialism, and to go through it a little bit. So the most important thing you need to know about imperialism is you're likely to get asked what the motivation for it was. In fact, when you're in year 13, I am 100% definitely going to ask you a question which says something like, US imperialism from the years 1890 to 1920, something like that, was largely motivated by a desire for new markets, something like that. And so you have to be able to have all the different reasons of why there might have been imperialism if it wasn't a need for new markets. Now, the first of the theories is that it was an accidental empire, that America sort of fell into it. So it didn't really want to have much to do with the Philippines, but it ended up getting embroiled in it, and it just didn't seem to desire it. I don't buy this at all. That's not one for me. I don't think that they fall into it. Okay, they got embroiled in one thing or another that perhaps they may have wanted to avoid. But I think there was more selfish reasons for why they wanted to get an empire. Progressive imperialism, again, I don't entirely buy, but you could write about it, and I say it could be a main reason when you come to look at it yourself. So progressivism, progress. It's what you associate with making things better. So progressive in America, it's like breaking down the massive capitalistic control of everything, just improving things generally. So the idea there with progressive imperialism is that, imperialism, by the way, creating an empire, taking over other countries, controlling other parts of the world. It's like an aggressive foreign policy to increase American influence. So progressive imperialism is the idea that America was doing it selflessly. They were motivated by the idea that they could make other places better. And of course they did open schools and hospitals in places like Cuba. But again, I don't really buy this because, well, it's just too idealistic. America's just gone, lads, we've got loads of money. We're quite a wealthy nation. What should we do? Should we just go and influence other countries and make them build hospitals, help to pay for schools and that? It's not. Even though they were taking on capitalism and greed a little bit, this was from the excesses of the Gilded Age. It wasn't going the other way and making America charitable. It was trying to cut back on the excesses of the Gilded Age. And so, again, I think it was for more selfish reasons. The need for new markets. So America, before this point, had always found new markets in the West, with things open up, resources being found, gold towns springing up in the West. A great deal of wealth was springing up in the West of America. But by the end of the century, the West was no more. It was just the United States of America. And so there was a need for more expansion, for new markets, and they couldn't expand within America. They needed to expand globally to sell the products, to sell the American products that were being produced in the American economy further afield. And that makes sense. There were surpluses in the amount of farm produce Americans were producing. So many homesteaders had gone west to make these colossal farms. They were producing so much, and it wasn't a good thing, because if there's too much of something in a country, the price drops. And Americans because they had surplus farm produce, they were producing too much. If they could sell it around the world, because they'd gained influence around the world in certain places, then there'd be more demand for American products, because there'd be more places to sell it to, and the price might rise, and it'd be great for farmers. So a need for new markets might be important. At the end of westward expansion itself, is a reason. And also there's preclusive imperialism. Now I think there's more of a case for this on the basis of the Monroe Doctrine, which you should be aware about. So the Monroe Doctrine, of course, was the idea that America's not going to get involved in European affairs, but Europeans are not allowed to get involved in America, south or north. That's America's thing. And so preclusive imperialism has its idea that America colonised areas that if they didn't, then Europeans might have. And you've got examples with Samoa, for example. It's some islands out in the Pacific. America got involved in Samoa, because clearly the British or the Germans had designs on it, and they got involved in a war over there, a conflict, a civil war in Samoa. And if they'd not been involved, they wouldn't have had a say in it. And although it's actually geographically quite far from America, it's one of the closest countries to Samoa. And so yeah, that's just one example of many. But hey, mine, which I think that the biggest motivating factor for anything American at the time, including this, was economics. So I would have the search for new market as classed with capitalism. America gained every time they took over another country. They gained more influence. They could put their business there. They could invest in there. So a classic example is Hawaii. Hawaii didn't want to be annexed by America, and didn't want to be another American state, but it was, and America benefited massively from having a port there, but also importing loads of Hawaiian sugar, which it needed. So yeah, there's others as well. You know, they lost a lot. But you go through the book, look at the different countries, there will be something that they gained economically, some sort of trade deal that they gained from having taken over that country. So yeah, there we go. This, like, you can look at the different countries and the incidents, but those are the things you need to be able to explain. And I'd be having a go at making a mind map. Accidental imperialism, so they sort of fell into it. Progressive, they thought they could improve the world. Not sure about that one. The need for new markets, that ties in more with the capitalistic control of America. The end of westward expansion, linked to the search for new markets. Preclusive imperialism, there's cases for that, I think, as well. So there we go. Hopefully you've got some notes on that, and that's a different start to this lesson, but there we go.